Welcome to Cockpits and Cocktails, the lively aviation podcast, where we talk about all things aviation and aerospace. So please grab a cocktail, let's chill out and talk about some aviation.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Cockpits and Cocktails. I'm so excited about our special guest,
Hello.
Andrea.
Is it Andrea or Andrea?
Whatever you prefer. I listen to both of it.
Okay.
What do your family call you? What does your family call you?
So in Germany, it sounds very hard. It's Andrea. So
Ooh.
That's what I was going to say.
harder than that. But normally it's Andrea. Both is fine.
Emily, you and I talked yesterday, so it's nice to see you.
Nice to see you too, now in person. Almost in person.
Yeah, kind of.
Hi, I'm Stephanie. It's nice to finally meet you.
Hi, nice to meet you too.
It was such a pleasure to be able to experience such an amazing expo, and especially with some of the big aviation names that I know. And through Instagram, we always look at other posts and feel like we know each other. And to meet each other is always really amazing. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you are doing in aviation.
So about me, my pilot's way was always that it was a childhood dream. So none of my family has ever been in aviation, and when I was about 3.5 years old, I just saw some little model helicopters and airplanes and airships, and I asked my parents, what is that? And they explained it to me. So I've never been even on any airplane, and so I was listening to their story, what they told me, that you can fly like a bird and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. And I want to be someone who actually fly those things. So I was always up to become a pilot or an astronaut, even though I've never been sitting in any airplane or helicopter or whatever. And obviously not in an airspace yet. So that was pretty much my way. So since I was 3.5 years old, I always wanted to become a pilot. And I always told my parents, I want to become a pilot. I want to become a pilot. And they were like, okay, if you want to become a pilot, I wasn't that fortunate that my parents gonna take care of the costs or could introduce me to anyone, because we didn't even know any pilot who could like sneak me in onto a cockpit, whatever. So when I was 10 years old, we finally went on a vacation and we flew to Morocco, and I was sitting in that airplane. I remember that feeling like it was yesterday. I was so excited. I didn't care where we going. It was all about flying, actually. And when we were sitting there and seatbelts got fastened and everything, and I was like, okay, now today, it's gonna be the day. And that day really just burned in my mind and my memory. And I was like, okay, I always knew I want to become a pilot, but that day just confessed I want to become a pilot. So in the age of 10, I was pretty sure one day I'm going to be a pilot. So as I mentioned before, my parents couldn't afford me a pilot license, and I was trying to figure out how can I become a pilot. So I did everything. I was working on events. I was internationally working just to afford my license. And I was pretty old, not too old, but older than normal student starts. So, and I started my company. I was working internationally. And one day I decided, okay, now I gotta go before I turn too old. And I did my private pilot license in the US. And that's how I started back in 2017, my pilot's license.
Now, let's tell everyone where home is.
So at home, that's a good question. So my home is international. So I changed pretty much between Germany. I travel back and forth a lot between Germany and California. So I used to live in San Luis Obispo. What's super nice, it's in between Los Angeles and San Francisco. I lived there for a while. I'm pretty often in Los Angeles as well. Then I visit friends in North Carolina. I go to Nevada. So I always travel a lot within Germany and the US, but I also go a lot to Spain, a lot to Thailand, a lot to Italy. Like almost everywhere where I can find a helicopter and can fly.
Wow. Well, tell me, so I hear a lot of European pilots actually come to the US to train. Why is that?
So first of all, if I'm gonna go for the pilot's license, I had the decision between going to the US first or going to somewhere within Europe first. But there's a big difference between the two licenses. So if you get your private license in Germany, for example, you have to get checked through each year. If you once ever got your American license, as we know, it never really expires. So if you're not proficient, you just do a flight, you do like a proficiency. But in Germany, you have to get a type rating for each kind of aircraft you want to fly. So if you have an R22, R44, you need to have a type rating for that. If you want to fly a B3 engine or a B2, you have to do a differential. So that makes it much more complicated between getting a license in Europe, or especially in Germany, or having a license in the US. And what also differs is that in the US, you can pretty much go anywhere you want as long as you don't harm any field or property or person to do any off-airport landing. If you do it in Europe or especially in Germany, you cannot just perform any off-airport landing. So that's such a big difference. And I thought, yeah, flying in the US probably gonna be more fun than flying in Germany. So that's why I started with my private license in the US.
Okay, so what do? You fly an R22. Doesn't sound like an airplane, fixed wing. So
No, so it's all helicopter based till now. So I have my commercial license in the US, but I'm also an ATP student for helicopters in Europe. So I do hold the commercial US license. I'm holding an European license and I'm flying wherever I want to do. And I'm not really flying commercially. I fly more likely for fun. So if I ever go on vacation, if I ever go and want to experience new spots, I do fly and fly around either with my friends for fun, enjoying the passion of flying.
nice.
Yes.
So did you guys both go on the Airbus helicopter at the Heli Expo? I
Yes.
was super jealous. That I had no idea how big it was. Is that something like you're flying? Something that big? I'm not really familiar with helicopters, so that was huge.
It was massive. It was just so big. It has a capacity of 18 passengers. So that's something like super unusual for a regular private pilot license holding helicopter pilot. So it's huge, it's massive. It's more likely used for oil rigs, for search and rescue, for the military use. That's this part of helicopter use. But I do fly helicopter passenger capacities up to 6 persons. So it's a pilot plus 5 passengers, and that's more likely you will find it in an A-Star, like H125. That's the biggest model I flew by myself.
Well, it looked like they had filled that up. I know that everybody was begging for a ticket. So I was with Cooper when she found out, and she dropped, like, I think she jumped in the air and dropped everything on the ground. And I thought like something happened. And she's like, I gotta go. And I didn't even understand what was happening. and it was all over flying in a helicopter. I was like, oh, you're not even, I didn't realize that it was, they, yeah. And then when I saw the pictures, you guys, they made sure everybody could get in that got in. I was a little jealous, I'm not gonna lie.
I think Cooper can confirm it's just so massive. I knew it from pictures, I knew it from newspapers, whatever, but like standing in person in front of it, it was so big and it had dimensions. It's not even comparable to normal helicopters, and it was a huge honor that Airbus picked me and of course Cooper and everyone else of us who went on board to fly and experience it. And when we had the demo flight and we were actually flying over Dallas, it was just
Magical.
it had all this thing has a lot of power.
So tell me, what is this Heli Expo that you two have both been talking about? Because I am not a helicopter person. I don't know a lot about it. What is it? And do I need to go next year?
You definitely need to go. So the Heli Expo is the biggest. So Heli Expo is hosted by the Helicopter Association International, and it's the biggest community or the biggest organization for association actually for helicopter pilots. So there you're gonna meet everyone out of the helicopter business. It's mechanics, it's pilots, it's distributors, suppliers, customizers. So everyone who has anything to do with helicopter business, you're gonna meet there, and it's the biggest show.
You have a huge following on Instagram. What was your point in starting this Instagram page? Was it all about showing your love of flying helicopters and aviation? And what do you hope that it does for individuals?
So I pretty much figured out in the beginning, I used my Instagram just to show, what I'm eating, what I'm doing all day. So I didn't do it on the purpose to do any promotion on anything, just to share. Due to the fact I always had a lot of international friends, I was like, okay, keeping up with my friends, showing them what I'm doing, where I'm going, where I'm gonna meet them next. And the time when I started my helicopter pilot study and went into the licensing, I figured out that there is a ton of people who would sit with me actually in the cockpit and see what I'm doing, where I'm flying, what I'm experiencing, where I'm going.
You're going to continue kind of sharing that with everyone. Do you actually own your own helicopter? Do you rent? How does that work, especially like in Germany?
So in the US, I'm always renting out helicopters, and I'm in Europe.
There are a lot of female helicopter pilots that you know or that you've gotten to know through the Heli Expo and Instagram. And what is it like to be able to connect with other female helicopter pilots?
So through Instagram, it helped me to find a lot of other female helicopter pilots. So that is pretty neat. And I'm like, so I don't know, Lee and Cooper. So I met them before through Instagram, before I actually met them in person. And it helps me to find other female pilots and also exchange the experience being a helicopter pilot.
Okay, Stephanie or Cooper, do you have some other questions?
Yes. Well, I have so many. I could sit down with Andrea all day.
What would two helicopter pilots talk about?
Helicopters.
Are there favorites? You know, like with airplanes, people have favorite airplanes.
So do you wear a helmet or not non-helmet? And if you do, which one do you like? Not to brand, but because a lot of helicopter pilots want to know.
So I don't wear a helmet. So when I fly here in Germany, they would like stare at me if I ever wear a helmet, even though I think it's the safest thing to wear. So here for the operations, you don't really need a helmet, but I think in general it should be mandatory. So it's just safer if you ever have a bird strike, if you ever fly door off, what I do pretty often, it's just so much safer to wear a helmet. So I know different brands, and I'm really thinking about, especially for door off operations, to get one, but I'm not actually wearing one. But what I really recommend is to wear gloves. So I always wear gloves, especially if you fly R22, R44, because yeah, if you really have to shut down the throttle, I think it's pretty slippery. And if you're doing a lot of operations, so if you do like a straight and level flight, it's pretty fine. But if you have an aircraft without any air conditioning and you're actually working a lot with a helicopter, I really recommend to wear gloves.
Oh, that's interesting. My instructor has never said that because I fly 22.
Yeah.
Do you wear a helmet, Cooper?
I do not, but I think I just want one to be cool.
I know. I figured you'd want one. Sparkle it and bedazzle it.
Of course.
Yeah.
All right. So how long did it take you to actually get rated, a helicopter rating? Is that kind of like the same as amount of time as it would take a private pilot to get their license?
So it's the same. I think it's the same. It's 45 hours of training, and yeah, just like the written exams, you have to learn for that. So for me, it was okay because I have a lot of family and friends in the US which are speaking English. So for me, it wasn't the barrier to learn English and to learn all about mathematics and physics and aerodynamics. So I had like in Germany, I have concentrated courses on that if you do your high school. So I had concentration on physics, math, and stuff like that. So I didn't have to learn it all over again. And so it took me not very long. It took me like till I was ready to do actually my check ride. It took me 2.5 months from the day I started.
So I have a
Wow.
question. We are promoting these last, say, 5 to 7 years. We really, as women, come together to try to increase the number of female pilots. How is it in Germany or Europe? How does it compare? And what
I don't think there's any program because when I started here, it was like, okay, just go to a school and sign in. So there was no really support from this side. And I think to be, especially in Europe or in Germany, to be a female pilot, there's a lot of misunderstandings, especially if you're flying in your private clothes. Like people waiting for the pilot, even though you just ordered fuel for the aircraft. So there are fun moments, but it's just people are not used to female helicopter pilots. I think they just have to get more used to it and have to get more aware that there are also more and more female helicopter pilots. But I think a program would definitely help, but I have never heard of any.
Okay, so you said you don't fly, you fly for fun, helicopters for fun. So then what do you do? What is your actual career in?
So my first career started in being an event manager. So I did international events and guest management for big car companies. So there are a lot of German brands I was working for. And after that, or during that, I started my own marketing company. So I did a lot of marketing. Out of the marketing companies, I created a new company. So I have a brand for babies and kids fashion, and as well an online shop and some real estate. Yes.
That's so cool. I love hearing, you see these people on Instagram and they've got more to them than just their Instagram stuff. And I think it's neat to find out, you can do all these other things too, and you can still enjoy aviation as a hobby and not, it doesn't have to be a career. It could be a fabulous hobby, and you've got all these different elements and sides of you that you can excel at. I think that's really cool.
Yes, and I can use it. So even though for business meetings, I'm just hopping on a helicopter and I fly there instead of sitting in a car, sitting in traffic jams. So there's always a way you can combine your hobby and your business. And now I'm doing my ATP license. I think so. I was always like, okay, I'm gonna keep it for fun. I'm gonna keep it for fun. But due to the training in the US, what is totally different than the other training, I figured out, okay, I do so much for fun. I do so much for my business, but what if I can't help with my passion? So that's one of the points why I'm going for the ATP license, because I want to be able to do off airport landings, but at the same time, maybe one day there's a lack of search and rescue pilots, or there's a lack of ambulance pilots. So then I can, like, even though it's just part-time and it's probably not be the income as I have with my companies, but I think if you have any skills and you can help, why can I not help with that skill then? So I'm like transmitting it into ATP. Maybe one day I can help with that.
I love that. Yeah, I agree. You might as well, right? Be ready in case you ever needed to use it or you had the opportunity, then you're ready. We are going to wrap it up. Do you have anything else you want to add?
So what I want to add is that I really promote any girl, any female, any women to get your first step into any cockpit, no matter if it's helicopter, if it's airplane, if it ever was your wish to do so, just make a first step. Just get into it, get in contact with people who are already doing it. Maybe they can help you to overcome the first obstacles or the first questioning. Maybe they know someone who will promote you or help you with the costs and with the coverage or with the study program or whatever. So anyone who will ever be in a cockpit, just never hesitate to ask anyone.
Great advice.
It was so nice to finally meet you. I'm sure I saw you at the Heli Expo and I just didn't. It definitely, and Natalie, you definitely have to come. It was great.
Yeah, it sounds cool. I'd love to.
Mm-hmm.
And next time in California, I'm in an area we can get together.
Yes, we have to. We have to find fun spots to fly at, to fly there, to find some cake. So I'm really addicted to donuts. So if you know any donut store we can fly to, I'm in.
Yeah, we have a great donut store here. I love donuts too.
I can see you two just landing in the parking lot.
Yeah.
I mean, like, real quick.
The freshest donuts ever.
Right. Well, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. It was great chatting with you and getting to know you. And I wish you all the best in your helicopter endeavors. And hopefully you can just continue melding all your interests and passions together and just keep on encouraging others to pursue and look into aviation a little bit more. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for inviting me, and it was a pleasure to talk to you.
Bye-bye.